And welcome back to Bitcoin Advisors channel. My name is Chris, bringing it to you here from Westlake Village, California. We've been getting some crazy weather over here. It rained last night for about 10 minutes. Anyways, I think it's been raining a little bit longer in these markets. And yes, what are we looking at today? Some major economic news came out. The first string, that is PPI, the Producer Price Index. And I was just looking at this before we got started. This is the US dollar on the monthly chart. And if this was Bitcoin, I would be bullish and I would be very confident with a move, to higher prices, right? When you're closing monthly higher highs on an asset like this is a macro breakout. And this is why the dollar's looking strong. And this is why we have the target at the 1618 fib. We said likely the dollar rush to security in the bond, turmoil out there. It makes a lot of sense. The Bank of England and this is probably one of the most important pieces of news that I've come across over the past couple of days, but the Bank of England had to step in, bail out the pension funds. And then what happened? They put a floor price on the UK's bonds, and they said in 3 days they are going to lift the floor and essentially, see if there's any bids to save the country. So I don't know exactly how to put it into words, frankly. But Raoul Paul, I think he's actually did a good job. I don't agree with everything he says, but he's pretty spot on.
Really well was when currencies got
regulatory purposes meant that they can't do it. So cash is piling up in the reserve repo market. So there's trillions sitting in there with nowhere to go, not being put into the system. And the pension system. And the pension system has just taken the biggest loss ever in the 60-40 portfolio. That's the portfolio of equities and bonds. 60% equities, 40% bonds. That was the safest investment style of all, and the entire pensions industry worldwide uses it as its benchmark. We've just had the largest drawdown.
Yeah, so what he's saying right here is that the traditional portfolio, 60% stocks, 40% bonds, just had the biggest drawdown in, I think he said 40 years. So that traditional form of investing just had a significant drawdown. You've got the Bank of England in this situation where their bonds, their treasury bonds are, about to go bust. And PPI comes out this morning. And we talked about this. If it was worse than expected, PPI, that would be bullish for the dollar. And so here was the previous month, negative 0.2%. The expectation, the consensus at 0.2%, but it came in at 0.4%, higher than expected. And that is bullish for the dollar. And when the dollar goes up, typically risk assets go down. But anyways, raise your hand if you wish this was Bitcoin right now. It's, and here's what I thought. Just let's take a look at some other charts on the monthly time frame, a macro outlook. Well, there's the NASDAQ. There is the S&P, the Dow. Here's Ethereum, right? Doing something different. XRP, maintaining a downtrend still, but doing something slightly different. Ape, they just had, I think some problem with the SEC and took a big hit yesterday. Ethereum Classic. Not the picture of health and fitness right there on a macro outlook. So, yep, as long as the dollar does this, if you throw the Bollinger Bands on there, we're closing above the top side shoulder band. If that was Bitcoin, you'd be looking for a big splash upwards. But the dollar moves slow at pace and, one target at a time. And I think, let's see if there's any daily bearish divergence. That could possibly confirm. Right now, there's none in play. Until we confirm this as a high, you know, we won't be able to see that. Right now, volatility is ticking up and crossed up on the daily. So momentum is to the upside as long as we're above 111.68. And I'll just jump into Bitcoin right now. Yeah, so did we fully discuss the PPI? Yeah, it came out higher than expected. So that's, you know, bullish for the dollar, bad for risk assets. So I guess I'll take these off and take a look at Bitcoin on the daily time frame. And we are still on a downtrend, even on a closing basis right here. So where could we possibly see a draw up? You know, as high as the top side of this range at the 618. Yeah, I think that would be the best case for the bulls. On the other side of the fence, if tomorrow's economic data comes out negative, it is going to be bullish for the market. And what I mean by negative is inflation, year over year inflation comes out tomorrow, or CPI, which is 5:30 tomorrow morning. I definitely would want to be aware of that. And just take a look at the bond market really quick. We'd expect bond prices to continue to rise. And if you look at the 2 and 10 year, this is the 2-year yield, currently at 4.3%. That's way more than your checking account's going to pay you, right? And then you got the 10-year at 3.95, 30-year fixed coming in at 3.92%. Maybe losing some steam there. And, you know, if we confirm this as a local high, yeah, you know, that could come back to 3.72. And closing anywhere below 382, yeah, that would probably do it for me for a lower high, a higher high with the driver bearish divergence playing out, maybe down to 372. Yep, but I just don't see any, you know, stopping right here. If this comes back in the bullish control zone on the daily time frame, that's going to be a bullish signal for the dollar. And the big question is expectation versus reality tomorrow. If inflation comes in, just what we've been saying over the past couple of days, hotter than expected, you know, I would expect perhaps risk assets will, you know, take a bit of a hit. And I think that's it for today. I don't even have any new. Oh yeah, let's cover this. The Fear and Greed Index on the 1-year chart. You can see capitulation happens down here. You know, when it gets to 11, we're at, I think it's at 20 right now. So we're still in the extremely fearful zone. But, and look, you know, we probably saw bounces off this region the past few times. We are kind of just sitting on that daily trend line for Bitcoin. You know, this kind of region right here between 18.5 and this, every time we've come down to this region, we bounced. If we confirm this as a local low by closing above 19,314, you will have some bullish divergence play out. Hidden bullish divergence of 1, 2, 3, 4 lower lows. Yep. So that could be good for a bounce. But I'd say, again, watch the dollar here and you'll get the direction of the markets for sure. Flight to safety. You know, if I can't imagine what the government's going to do for their bonds if nobody will buy them because the currencies are, you know, crashing, apparently, or they don't see stability in the pound, which this is the pound, right? Just, I guess we should have went short the pound back here. Wow, that's a pretty good drawdown from 2021, down 27%. See how it's kind of the opposite chart of the dollar on a macro level? It's just doing the opposite of the dollar, and that's why interest rates are going up. And hey, you simply look at this at it. This is a, you know, if this region breaks, you know, this thing could come down to 80 cents pretty easily. Volatility continues to peak here. It's interesting to see what they're going to do to the bonds in the UK after this lifting of the floor. Anyways, I think I'm going to wrap it up with some little more touching on Bitcoin. And on a macro level, you got momentum to the downside. Volatility is continuing to increase, and see how, you know, this is one of the lowest times on the monthly time frame for Bitcoin. This is off of Bitstamp. Let's see what it looks like on, that's Coinbase, and that's Bybit. Yeah, so the most history, you know, Bitstamp, not Coinbase, Bitstamp. There you go. So on a monthly time frame, if you're breaking below the green 55, multiple closures, you know, momentum is to the downside, kind of on a macro. Again, opposite of the dollar, right? So yeah, you can see over this time frame making new highs, breaks the bottom wick here, and it was a straight shot down. So when could you run into some support if this area breaks again? At about 17.5 is these highs back here. See, we are kind of bouncing off of this high right here. And yeah, you probably get a bounce off of this high and right there. There are definitely some bulls still out there buying the dip, and you know, anyways, this isn't meant for financial advice. I just want to give you some outlook on a comparison of the dollar being bullish and Bitcoin being in a downtrend on the weekly time frame. On the 4-hour, if you're playing the shorter term time frames, I can just see some trend lines on the 4-hour right here. And so, yeah, again, need to defeat that 20,500 region, you know, to be looking at the next leg, you know, higher on the 4-hour time frame. Volatility is low, and we are about to cross back down below 19,000 bucks. So if the dollar bounces through the end of the day, because it's looking bullish, and I think people are, you know, probably making decisions before this, before the bond crisis happens. Yeah, the big highlight today was, is it a contagion, or, you know, if there's a contagion in the UK, is it going to make the rest of the world sneeze? And it all depends on, you know, if there's some defaults over there, companies start laying people off. There are major economies in Europe. I believe the UK is the third largest economy in the world. And there's definitely going to be some kind of a ripple effect. And are other countries' bonds becoming insolvent just like the UK? Is it happening in India and China, right, where they're having real estate problems? So a flight to the dollar, a flight to gold. Gold. Raul Paul was just saying how, Bitcoin probably going to start to replace gold over time. But here is Ethereum on the 4-hour time frame, still maintaining the downtrend. Lower highs and lower lows, and kind of one, higher low, maybe a potential reversal, but still needs to defeat pretty much this area at 1326. So again, I would put it against the dollar almost to a T. If the dollar has a 4-hour before that area, I'm looking for a move back, probably to 111 to the bottom side of this trend line. Vice versa, if we start to close above, this level, probably right there, but yeah, if we start to close above 113.66, I'd be looking for, the next two levels to start to get hit. So it should be interesting to hear the news on how the news really plays a part in the market, and most importantly, how it affects the dollar. If there's a bond crisis, where do you think people are going to go for safety if they have foreign currency? It is the strongest asset, the most bullish chart out there right now. Think about it. There has to be a bond crisis, because why would you want to lock your money up for what bond prices used to be, right? You'd had to be in risk assets to make any kind of return, but now things are reversing. All right, that's it for today, guys. Have a blessed day. I'm going to get back into the charts. Hope you all have a wonderful, blessed, and highly favored day. We'll talk to you soon. Take care.